Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, welcome everybody. So today we are going to get started with our Bhagavad Gita reading, and we'll be using the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The link is also shared. It's based on the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and this teaching has come in disciplic succession directly from Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita, there are total 700 shlokas. Out of them, majority are spoken by Krishna. 574 shlokas are spoken by Krishna. Arjun spoke 84 shlokas, Sanjay spoke 41, and Dhritarashtra spoke the first shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. That's one shloka. So first chapter is Arjuna Vishad Yoga. So we are going to discuss about the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, first shloka today. And the first chapter is actually, we can divide it into two sections. From first shlok to 27th shlok, there is basically preparation of the war, and we'll discuss how it was started with a question by Dhritarashtra, and then Sanjay answered the initial part. And by the later part of the chapter, from 28 to 46, it's mainly Arjuna speaking and presenting his doubts. So traditionally, this chapter is named as Arjuna Vishadha Yoga or Sanya Niriksha Yoga. So Sanya Niriksha Yoga means analyzing the army. Basically, the first part of the chapter, Sanya Niriksha. And then the later part is where Arjuna is having doubts. So that is Arjuna Vishadha Yoga or Arjuna's lamentation. So these are the two sections in which this will be divided. So initially it'll be preparation of the war. So Dhritarashtra asked the question, and then the Sanjay will be responding, and he'll be sharing how Duryodhana has gone to his teacher, and he's speaking. So we'll discuss in this section. So let me just pull out the shloka first. We'll do the reading of the shloka, and then we'll come back to the slides. Okay, so this is the actual Sanskrit as well as English transliteration of the Sanskrit. So we will recite this. I request everybody to repeat after me. You can unmute your mics and you can repeat. So I'll say one line and then you repeat. So the way we are going to do it is each line of the shloka I will recite, and it's going to be call and response. So I'll call and then you respond. And then each and every word of each Sanskrit shloka is given here, which can be read when you guys are reading yourself. But after reciting the shloka, we will go to the translation, and then we will go to the explanation or the purport part, and then we'll have discussions and brainstorming. Okay, so please repeat after me. Dhritarashtra vacha, Dhritarashtra vacha, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre,
Dharmashetre Kurukshetre
Samvetayuyutsavaha,
Samvetayuyutsava
Mamakah Pandavaschaiva,
Mamaka Pandavasheva
Kim akurvat Sanjaya.
Kim Akurvat Sanjaya.
Okay, so we'll go to the translation. Anyone would like to volunteer to read the translation? Can anybody volunteer for reading?
Haribol, I can do.
Yes.
Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?
Okay. So this is the question. Question is coming from Dhritarashtra that both Pandus and Kurus, they have assembled to fight. What did they do? So it is interesting how Bhagavad Gita is actually spoken in the middle of the war. Can anybody share like why such a setting? Why do you think such a setting the Bhagavad Gita is being spoken? Anyone? Any thoughts? There are many reasons actually. One of the reason is that how Bhagavad Gita's practical application is valuable and helpful in every situation. It may be a situation where you may be relaxed at home, or it may be a situation where you are totally in the mood of urgency and emergency. It could be at work or anywhere else. And war is a serious emergency. So even the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are applicable even to a setting of war. So in any and every setting, it's helpful. The other aspect is the way Bhagavad Gita is actually positioned within the bigger book, which is the Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is actually the whole total compilation, and within the Mahabharata, in one of the sections called as the Bhishma Parva, that section has the Bhagavad Gita, these 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So it is placed where people are very curiously and attentively hearing. So if somebody hears the Mahabharata, they are actually in a position where they are having more and more eagerness to hear what happens next. Like many times, if any of you are sports fan, soccer or cricket or whatever other sports you may be enjoying, if you see just before the sport starts, everybody is actually there waiting. Yes, when is the first whistle is going to be blown and people are going to get started with whatever match they are looking forward to. So everybody is very eager, very enthusiastically waiting. And similarly, in those days, these martial arts, the arena where people are going to display their skills of fighting, that was a big sport also in those days, especially for Kshatriyas or the warrior class. So this Bhagavad Gita is actually kept just when people are very attentively, eagerly looking forward to hear. So there are many, many reasons. We're just touching on few of them. So Bhagavad Gita is placed here. So now Dhritarashtra is asking, when they are assembled, what did they do? Now this question actually signifies that Dhritarashtra is thinking that maybe the expected events which are to happen may not necessarily happen. There is a chance that something else may happen, and that's why he's saying, what did they do? So we'll read the explanation of the purport part and then we'll have more discussion. So can I have any other volunteers who can read the first paragraph of this purport? Any volunteers who are available to read?
Hare Krishna, I can.
Yes, please, Bhavya.
Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in the line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures in the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna.
Okay, thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
Thank
Thank
you. So, Bhagavad Gita is very famous. Many of the people have heard of it, even if people may not have read it. Anybody here who has read the Bhagavad Gita at least once, cover to cover? Anybody? You can raise hands or unmute and say. Either way would be fine. So nobody has actually read the Bhagavad Gita cover to cover. Okay, yeah. But everybody must have heard of Bhagavad Gita. That's why we got people to join the conference, because people have heard Bhagavad Gita. They may have come across it, but really studying Bhagavad Gita is something which, if we see, the society does not necessarily make us feel is important, is necessary, is needed. So we get away with so many other ways and means of conducting our life, and totally become oblivious or ignorant to addressing this aspect as well as our spiritual need. So here Bhagavad Gita is talked about as widely read or known theistic science, and it should be read with the help of the process given by Krishna. So Krishna has given the process, which we'll see in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how Bhagavad Gita has to be learned and practiced. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about it, but specifically in the fourth chapter, he says how it has to be learned from those who actually have the training of the science. So when we learn in that way, we can understand the meaning and apply in our life. Very important to use our intelligence and at the same time be submissive to what is being directed in the teachings. So when we use the combination of both, then actually we are able to get the help under the guidance of others who are more experienced. And then here in the purport is explained that Arjuna was fortunate that Krishna was there in front of him and he was able to get the science. And the same science is accessible to us, and we can read and we can share and we can understand and we can discuss. And those who are more experienced, we can ask questions and get more insight to it. Because just like an onion has so many layers which you keep peeling, one then the other then the other, and more of it keeps coming. Similarly, there are different layers to the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita as well, and the more we actually hear, read, discuss, apply in our life, the more we'll be able to actually go to the inner and deeper layers of it. But it's interesting that Bhagavad Gita has all the important knowledge which may be given in other sections, other scriptures, other places, and we'll see the commonalities and the similarities of Bhagavad Gita with other faiths, other traditions, and even within the Vedic traditions, the different branches. But not just that, Bhagavad Gita has things which may not be actually found at other places. So it is giving you even a deeper insight. So Bhagavat means what belongs to God. Bhagavan belongs to Bhagavan. And Geet means song. Song is Gita. So God's song, that is the literal meaning of it. When people are enjoying, they like to dance, sing, music. Similarly, actually, this is a song. And when we hear this song, um, in the proper manner, from the proper source, and from the proper meter, we actually um, can fall in love with the song. Just like so many people fall in love with so many other Hollywood, Bollywood, and different other songs. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita, which is the song of the God, um, is something which many people actually love, those who are well connected to it. So we will discuss more, but let's read the next paragraph, the second paragraph of this purport. Any volunteers who can read the second paragraph? Anyone wants to volunteer for that? Okay, I can read the second one. The
Hare
topic discussed.
So,
Yeah, you
Hare
want to read? Yes, please. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear anybody.
Hare Krishna Bhaiya, I'll read.
Yes, please.
Thus, by Drishtar and Sanjay, as described in Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, the topic discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, as described in Mahabharata, form the basics principle of this philosophy. So, this is a conversation. So, it is very interesting. A lot of Vedic scriptures or books are actually question answer based, they are conversations. Conversation and question answer has a lot of value. Anyone who is asking question, that's actually a sign of intelligence, and that is very much encouraged in the Vedic culture. So this discussion also, Dhritarashtra asked the question what happened, and Sanjay is going to now narrate what's happening, and this is going to be having a lot of philosophy and lot of uh, uh, insight to a science which actually we are all longing for. It actually quenches our thirst which we are looking for. So we'll discuss about it as it comes. This philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, the principles which are mentioned here, these are eternal. These are time testing. Krishna will tell that how these things were already he had given previously to Surya Dev. Like that, different time Krishna speaks to different audience in a different manner. So Arjuna was one of his students on this particular occasion. Okay, we'll read next paragraph. Who would like to volunteer for the next paragraph? The word Dharma Kshetra.
I'll continue this one.
Please, yes, that one was small, so you continue.
The word Dharmkshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjun. Drishtar, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in the field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want to compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in Vedas as the place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became a very fearful. Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that that this would influence Arjun and the sons of Pandu favorably because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjay was a student of Vyas. And therefore, by the mercy of Vyas, Sanjay was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Hare Krishna. Atul Bhaiya, your voice is not audible.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on
Yeah, yeah.
mute. So thank you for reading. So I was sharing that the word dharma kshetre is being used here. Now, dharma word is very deep. It's a Sanskrit word, and even though loosely it's translated as religion or religious rituals, but that's because we don't really have an equivalent word in English for talking about what dharma is. So here the point is that dharma kshetre means that place where the right kind of duty and occupation, which is spiritual occupation, which is actually eternal to the soul. The soul's real nature is actually to serve. So everybody is actually engaged in one or the other service. Some people are serving their family, some people may be society, some people may be serving community, some people may not have anybody to serve, so they'll have pet which they'll keep to serve, because service is the nature. And some people may be, whom we call maybe selfish, they are actually engaged in serving their own senses. But somehow or the other, that service has to be dedicated somewhere or the other. But when it is spiritually done in a pure consciousness, that is actually going to lead us to follow the proper path, which is the dharma. So dharma kshetra means actually that path which is spiritually engaged, in spiritual engagement, actually for the nourishment of the soul, of ourself and others. Kshetra means place or the field. So a field where dharma is actually being cultivated or dharma is practiced. So that is how this place of Kurukshetra is addressed. Kurukshetra is the battlefield where both parties had arranged for fighting, and Dharmakshetra is the word used because it is a very holy place. In the past, lot of holy activities had happened in this place of Kurukshetra. Parshuram had also actually meditated, retired after all the fighting and everything, and sat here because it's a holy place. So in this Kurukshetra place, it's a holy place, and this war is a holy war. So a holy place, why are you fighting? Because fighting also has a, um, spiritual component to it. Only when fighting is totally unavoidable, and when fighting is actually directed to protection of dharma, that is when fighting should be done. And that kind of fighting is actually encouraged, and that's why Arjun had to do it. We'll talk about it later, but here the point is that Kurukshetra is the field where the battlefield where they were assembled, and now because it's a holy place, when you are in an environment which is holy, it has different kind of influence on our mindset, on our activities, on our behavior. We can see this in our life. In different environment, we may have a different mood. My mind gets affected by the environment, mood gets affected by the environment. So now Dhritarashtra is thinking that because it's a holy place, it's a dharma kshetra, and now in Kurukshetra they have assembled. Now what will the place have influence in the mind of the Pandav and the Kaurav? Are they going to go forward with the fight or not? Now, Dhritarashtra, even though he was the father of the Kauravas, he actually, and he was the king right now, he was actually not the king previously. His brother was the king, and his brother and had died, so he was temporarily acting as a king, but he was not initially given the kingdom to rule as a king because he was blind. So Dhritarashtra was blind, and his brother was made the king. He acted nicely. He died because because he died. So Dhritarashtra was made the king temporarily till the next generation, which is the son of his brothers, the Pandavas. They grow up and are worthy of accepting the kingdom. However, the sons of Dhritarashtra, headed by Duryodhan, they were the ones who wanted to take the kingdom now, because Dhritarashtra was the king and Duryodhan is thinking, now I am eligible to become the king. But Pandu was the king, and Pandu's sons were much more eligible for the kingdom. And even from the perspective of the culture and the etiquette, the king's son, if he is eligible, he should become the king, even though other people maybe temporarily can be the caretaker kings. So Dhritarashtra was more like a caretaker king, but he always wanted to become the king, and he always wanted his sons to take over the kingdom. And because of that, he was fearing that if this fight doesn't happen, or if my son doesn't win, then it will be difficult for him to own the whole kingdom. So if it's a holy place may influence the mind of all the assembled people. Maybe it will lead to some kind of a compromise. But he, in his heart of heart, was wanting the kingdom. So he was wanting the kingdom, but at the same time wasn't prepared to have any losses in the battle. So this is how his mindset was, and it came in these words when he's saying, "What did they do?" And also, he was kind of a little apprehensive that it's a holy place, and he knew my brother's son, Pandava's son, they are actually very pious and they are really practicing dharma. So he felt that the holy place may influence them, and that can have an outcome on the battle. So he was having all these thoughts in his mind that they may influence Arjun and the sons of Pandu favorably. Uh, and that's why he was asking his secretary. His secretary name is Sanjay. Now, Sanjay is the secretary of Dhritarashtra, but also he was a student of Vyasdev. So Vyasdev, who was a great saint and sage, and these great saints and sages, they have sometimes a lot of mystic powers, and some of these powers, as you know, science is evolving, they are able to find some of them, discover, but the extent to which these people were having the powers, the science is nowhere close to actually being able to come up with this technology as yet. But he was from a distance able to give him a vision, like just like now we see we have television, and we have cell phones, we have laptops, internet. We are able to see what is happening far away, live. Similarly, he was given this technology by which he could see whatever is happening in the battlefield, in the different parts of the battlefield. He could see, and he could speak and narrate it to Dhritarashtra. So that's why Dhritarashtra is asking, because he was blind, but his secretary was actually given the this technology by which he could see what is going on there. Okay, we'll read the last paragraph. Any volunteers who would like to read? Who would like to read this last one? Paragraph.
I'll complete it.
Yes, please.
Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family, but Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhan, and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons, headed by Yudhishthira, would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmashetra and Kurukshetra apart from their historical and Vedic importance. Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So here, Pandav was the five brothers, and Dhritarashtra is calling Pandavas separately and then Kurus separately. Actually, the whole dynasty was Kuru dynasty, and Kuru dynasty had both Pandavas and Kauravas. But Dhritarashtra specifically pointed out Pandavas separately, and his own sons he pointed out Kurus or Kauravas. And when he pointed these both separately, that means he was not seeing them as one family, which was in one sense inappropriate, because his brother's son were actually under his charge after his brother died. The kingdom of the brother, which he was the king of, was now taken by Dhritarashtra. So he took the kingdom and he became the king. But when it came to actually taking the ownership and the responsibility and welfare of the sons of his brother, he did not fully do that. And therefore, he actually did injustice. Even though he was king or caretaker king, he should have been more just and impartial, but he did injustice. There were so many attempts on the Pandavas to kill, to attack, to actually take their property, to burn them. So all these things were done, and Dhritarashtra did not really did his 100% to protect them. So his mind is disclosed that he's, keeping them separate and his own sons separate. And then the example is given that just like when a nice, you know, when somebody has to do farming and there's a nice land, they make sure that all the weeds are taken out and nicely the crops are grown there. So when we see Dharma Kshetre, which is the field of Dharma, so this is a nice metaphorical way of saying that there is a field of Dharma from which the unwanted weeds will be taken out. And those unwanted weeds are the ones who are not actually helping in cultivation of Dharma. And that includes Duryodhan and party. Duryodhan and party, they are actually like weeds to be taken out. And who is going to do that? Weeds are taken out by the person, the farmer who takes care of that, or the gardener. And who's the gardener and the farmer here? Who's going to take out the weeds? Anybody? It's Krishna. So Krishna is the gardener or the farmer who's going to wipe out all these weeds. And the way he is structured, he has to do. God does things in amazing manner. Krishna does things where he doesn't even have to lift a sword, but the work will be done. And that's what he did. So coming back to our slides. So here we see that in the first shloka of the first chapter, Dhritarashtra is asking the question, What did they do? And he's seeing that it's a dharma kshetra, it's a holy place. He knows that Krishna is present there. Pandavas are righteous, they have done right things, and things may happen in favor of Pandavas. And even Bhishma, Drona, they are saintly, and this is a holy place. So he was fearful that they may back off. They may say, hey, we don't want to fight against the Pandavas. Or Krishna may come up with some other means. And he was just fearful that things may not happen the way he wants. And um, the example of weed, taking out weed from the farm, was nicely given, and Krishna will take out these unwanted weeds. So this is the conclusion here of the discussion from this chapter, this shloka, first shloka. But I'll be happy to take any questions or any discussion points or anything else you have from this particular shloka. Anybody? Question, comments, realizations? Okay, so if nothing is there, then we can go to the second shloka. Please repeat after me. Sanjay Vacha
Sanjay Uvacha
दृष्ट्वा पाण्डवानीकम्
Drishtva tu Pandavanikam
व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा
Vyudham Duryodhana
Duryodhastada
आचार्यमुपसङ्गम्य
Acharyam
Acharyam
Upasangamya
राजा वचनमब्रवीत्.
Raja
Raja.
Vachanam Abrave.
Okay, who would like to read the translation? Any volunteers?
I can read.
Sanjay.
Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arrayed in the military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So now Dhritarashtra asked the question. Sanjay is now seeing what's happening, and Sanjay's glance goes there where Duryodhan is actually going to his teacher Dronacharya, and he's going to speak. So we'll discuss what he speaks, but let's read the purport. Can somebody volunteer to read the purport? Anybody?
I can continue.
Anji.
Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place pilgrimage and Sanjay. And Sanjay could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjay wanted, therefore, to encourage the dependent king and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhan, after seeing the military force of Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as a king, he still had to go to commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician, but Duryodhan's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for reading. So here it is explained that how Dhritarashtra, he was blind from birth. But not just blind to be able to see things physically, but also spiritually he was blind. He was not taking a right decision. He was not even taking decisions. Many times Duryodhan was the one who was taking decisions, and he did not have the heart to give any kind of a strong training or firm training to his children from childhood. And that is where he missed out so big that Duryodhan was almost like a personification of envy. He was envious and hatred of the Pandavas. And therefore, Dhritarashtra was not able to control the kingdom and the functioning properly, and never there was an understanding which they could come up with the Pandavas. And Sanjay now is responding to the query by sharing that, hey, you were you, so Dhritarashtra is worried whether the fight is going to happen or not. Sanjay is saying, no, seems like the fight is going to happen because Duryodhan is actually going to talk to one of his commanders, who is Dronacharya, who is not just one of the chief commanders, but also the teacher of so many warriors in both parties, both Pandavas as well as the Kurus, and many other princes when they were small. All the many other kings when they were prince, they were all taught by Dronacharya. So he's going to go and talk to Dronacharya, and Duryodhan is referred to as king here. When he said Raja Vachanam Abravit. So Raja Vachanam Abravit. So he basically said these words, and he's referred to as king because he's referred to as Raja because he's good in Rajniti. He's good in Rajniti or politics. Duryodhan is very good in politics, and that's why that word is used. And how he is fit to be a politician, that we will read in subsequent shlokas. When he's speaking, he's very thoughtful and mindful to whom what he's speaking. He doesn't have the skill to win the fight by himself, but he is actually going to use the words in a manner to try to get people to act for him. And his behavior like this is going to show that how he is not going to back off. He is not going to have any positive influence. Even though he's in a holy place, he's not totally open to it at all, and he's going to really go forward. And even though this war is going to have such severe negative consequences on both parties, Duryodhan's selfishness is not going to see all that, and he's going to just want to do what he wants to do for his self-interest. So these are some of the things which we'll elaborate on and discuss as and when particular shloka comes. So we'll pause here. Anybody would like to share any thoughts on this particular shloka? First or second shloka? Any thoughts, any questions, comments, any points, any reflections? Okay, so I think we are almost to the time where we have to end. If nobody has any questions, no points, then I think we'll conclude for today. I hope the discussion was helpful. Anybody would like to provide any feedback? I'm happy to have that. Feel free to message me separately, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Tomorrow we'll have our Hindi session on the Bhagavad Gita. So if you know anybody who would prefer that, feel free to share with them. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.